change in the fundraising sector has never been greater. But innovations in technology are evolving faster than our ability to understand them. Are these advances good or bad? Do they have unintended consequences? And what is the application to the global fundraising sector? That's what we're here to find out. Welcome to the Fundraising AI podcast, your up-to-date resource for responsible AI for the global fundraising community, hosted by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fundraising AI podcast. I'm Nathan Chappell. I'm here with Scott Rosenkrantz and a very special guest today. We're super excited to have you on our podcast, Sal. We've been talking about this for a while, and you've jumped in kind of both feet with Fundraising AI, and this is probably just a long time coming to have you on the podcast with us. So I wanted to start out real quick, have you introduce yourself, share a little bit about what Fundraise Up does, the origin story, and where you are today, where you're going in the future. But actually, I'm really curious. I know Scott was probably more curious. Like, what does a chief community officer do? And probably more importantly, how do we get that job? Because that sounds like a cool job to have.
I tell you, for the last couple of years, I was running partnerships at Fundraise Up. I basically get given the jobs here that no one knows how to do or know what it is. And it's kind of like, go figure it out. Which
That's cool.
What I did with partnerships. I love that they have the confidence to give me those roles. As we were growing, come January, they said, there's a lot of vibe out there for Fundraise Up. And there's no keeper of the flame. There's nobody curating that. There's nobody engaging out there learning. Would you be that person? I jumped at it. I said, half of my time I'm doing it already. Right. So make that my full-time focus.
I love the vibe. I think maybe you should have gone with chief vibe officer. That would have been pretty sweet. I love that sentiment of leveraging what's already out there and amplifying it. It is a pretty cool job, I have to admit. I see you out there kind of just honestly kind of having fun. It feels like you're really enjoying it and it just comes natural to you. Do you feel like you're living and working in your strengths?
Yeah. I'm making a conscious decision to not try to build Fundraise Up community, right? This isn't about let's build a following and a rabid fan base. It's about how do I get out in the community, be part of it, learn from it, and share what we learn with that community. That's the focus of what community means for me and for
So
us.
as we're talking about that, for people that are listening, I'll get this. We'll let you go at some point. You can close this out, Scott. What does Fundraise Up do? For the people that don't know Fundraise Up, I know you have lots of customers and a really successful story, but if you could explain what you actually do, maybe a little bit of the origin story and where you're seeing the future of Fundraise Up for whatever you're allowed to share.
Sure. You can go on YouTube on our Fundraise Up channel, and Peter, the CEO, one of the co-founders, tells it way better and way more emotional. But in a nutshell, the company is founded by three guys that were not involved in the nonprofit space at all, except for the fact that they were donors. And Peter was making a donation to a very large nonprofit that is now a customer of ours, which we're super happy about. That came full circle. And he couldn't get this donation through on his phone. He was in an Uber trying to get it through. Errors, wasn't mobile responsive, it wasn't working. He just Venmo'd his friend the money and said, here, you do it for me. So that was the impetus. He called a friend and they started looking around. This is horrible. This can't be the case everywhere. And they looked around and it was essentially the case everywhere. Then certain prototypes and ideas started getting dreamed up, and the on-page modal was born, which now we see a number of them out in the market after we piloted that. Adding AI into the product was almost an afterthought. It wasn't like, oh, let's build an AI donation checkout experience. It was build a donation experience that works. And by the way, I'm messing with TensorFlow. Let's throw it in there and see what it does with Ask Arrays.
Nice.
So that's the origin. What Fundraise Up does is basically dynamic donor checkout experiences. We optimize that experience at scale and make it personalized to the donor, leveraging AI, not just in an Ask Array, but in number of places throughout the donor experience.
Hey, you talked about getting to the nonprofit community and doing your work in this community. How did you get here and how did you end up at Fundraise Up?
Great question. My whole life I've been in tech in some capacity. When my daughter was born, I had a startup, was doing fine for me as a single guy and, my life at that point. And then my daughter was on the way, had my wife, and I said, I need something more stable. So started looking around, did a couple different job interviews. And then a client of mine from years prior said, hey, I'm now the CMO at a national nonprofit, the Child Mind Institute, Manhattan. You kill it, man. Like, can you come up here and help me out with some digital marketing and all that? So we were living in Florida at the time. And I went up to Manhattan. We moved to Brooklyn. And I started as the director of digital for the Child Mind Institute. That was my first exposure to nonprofit, like core in that capacity.
How long ago was that?
That was 2016.
Okay.
2017. And got there and I was exposed to the nonprofit tech and tools that they had in place. And I was coming from the e-commerce space prior, and I was, to use a word I rarely, flabbergasted. Yeah. Like what is, why does this donation form look like a DMV license renewal form? Like, what is happening here? And why is the director of development asking me to get more donations on that? Right. So I was there about a year and a half. And then I get a cold email from the co-founders and they say, hey, we're in Brooklyn. We're trying to find a nonprofit to try this prototype out. Give it a shot. And I just wrote back, and it was one of those sliding doors moments. It's like you either delete the spam or you reply. And I said, you know what? I'm desperate. I need something that works. Throw me a login. I'll take it from there. I'm like, I'm not going to get on calls. Just give me a login. And I didn't go through the director of development, didn't go to the CMO. I didn't get permission, didn't do the meeting, didn't do all I just said, you want more donations? I think this will do it. I'm going to put it in. I'll beg for forgiveness later if it doesn't work, but I'm going to skip the permission part. And that's how I was introduced to Fundraise Up. And then the guy said, hey, when we're ready to start a company, would you want to join us? About a year later, they came knocking on my door and said, we're ready to start it. Do you want to come help us get this off the ground? And that was it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that because I love somebody selling something, not selling, but speaking about something that they have firsthand experience and not just they're given a script on this is how we talk about this product. Like you've seen the impact that it makes in your own personal space.
We 5x donations. Like we were getting visitors a month and nobody was converting. And I put this tool in and I put it in every article as a little WordPress block right after paragraph 3 on every article. And five times the donation started going through. I said, this is insane. Like, this has to get out there,
Yeah. I think some of the greatest innovations that we experience come from the areas where there's the greatest need. And our sector is often known to be late adopters and kind of slow on the uptake. I mean, it reminds me of my early days of machine learning was completely built out of total frustration. It wasn't because I had this like, AI is the coolest thing and we should do it because everyone else is doing it. It was because the things that we have and the models that we were using sucked, frankly.
Right.
And actually realizing that they were creating harm to creating super biased approaches toward rich white men continuously, that for years, 20 years of fundraising, that moving to a mathematical approach where we could actually understand the motivations of giving was beautiful. I didn't know that was going to be the end result, but I knew that I was frustrated that there was very low efficacy in what we were doing. It was like throwing spaghetti on the wall and everyone else was doing it and we'd done it that way. But I love the fact that when there's this need and you can see like, look, we've got to solve for this. And talk about friction too. I mean, where I think back on those earlier days of online giving where, just basic friction. I mean, I believe there's good friction and bad friction. Bad friction definitely is having to click on many, many things and getting to the point where you time out or get frustrated and you just abandon a page. You're like, screw this. Like one little barrier comes in between you and that gift, you're going to bail. Right. So,
the threshold for friction is way lower on a donation than it is for buying a pair of shoes.
Yeah, good point.
Right.
And this is something that I when I'm on the conference circuit, I tell the audiences the friction barrier is much lower because I'm not getting the pair of shoes. And I get the serotonin hit when I donate. I feel generous when I click donate in the email on your website. If I abandon and I bail on that donation, that's on you because it was very difficult. I still get the good feels, right? So that's what this space has to level up on. Like, you can't have anything in the way between donor, that moment of generosity when they feel it and when they donate. Like, you can't.
Well,
my dad always said, if someone's doing you a favor, make it easy for them. Right. If someone's trying to support you, make it easy for them to do that.
Yeah.
Insane. How so many do not. And then we go, giving is down 1%. What's going on? You ask them to mail a PDF and I don't know. Yeah. There's a problem.
And it's interesting as you're talking, because I'm thinking also the stakes are higher than buying a pair of shoes, because you have this anticipation that I'm going to get this hit of dopamine. I'm going to do this good thing. The organization becomes a barrier to that by not fulfilling your destiny. Not only you be like, it's on you, but actually you're like disappointed in the organization because they robbed you of something that you had expectations for. Like, I think your brain was already wired to be like, I'm doing this thing because I committed, I'm going to make this donation. And all I have to do is click this one more thing and all is good in the world. And then essentially that organization takes it away. Actually, I can even feel myself being like, well, I'm lost a little bit. Like, that sucks. And I'm going to go to another organization now. So obviously a tremendous success story from the very beginning, really seeing the use of technology, solid platform to actually help reduce that bad friction. And the only good friction I think there is a friction that requires a human to interact with a human. Like those are good opportunities that we don't want to completely automize our way out of and just have people talk to bots 24/7. In terms of technology though, like, I always find it interesting. We have both Scott, who's like the earliest adopter of early adopters, who spends half of his time fixing things that don't work because he downloaded it a year before it was ever built. I used to be more that way, and then I think I got tired of doing that. So I'm still an early adopter and follow trends, but I'm a bit more cautious on my journey of like, okay, I'll let Scott try it out. And once he says it's fine, then it's fine. Where are you at in that kind of, do you just try everything that's brand new, or are you a bit more on the wait and see?
I'm a bit more on the wait and see, a bit weird. Like, it doesn't matter if it's new tech, old tech. If I try it and it's amazing and it works and it solves a need, I'm in and I'm your biggest fan. We use a lot of tech here, and I got direct lines with the product teams, and I'm like, you're going to market, but I'm going to give you feedback every day about that problem. But like generative AI, I didn't install Copilot or Perplexity on my phone until 6 months ago, maybe. I wasn't using it in a daily way until recently. But like Fundraise Up, like, I was desperate. My level of desperation was high. Got this tool. I said, it works. I'm all in. I'm fanboy for life.
Yeah.
I don't know where I sit on the bell curve. It depends on how upset I am about what I'm trying to get done.
Yeah. So you're probably,
I mean, that's what we often talk about. Yeah. People adopt when the pain is strong enough, right? When there's enough desperation, like, what I'm doing is not working for me anymore. I need to try something new.
Yep.
So
there's a tool called Crisp, and it's an AI sound microphone cleanser. So you can have really bad microphones and be in a room full of people, and it'll just take everybody out and clean the audio.
That's cool.
And early adopter on that, because we didn't have money to buy $600 headphones, and I was using AirPods, and I needed to talk in a room full of people. Like you said, how high is the level of frustration?
Yeah. And I think that's where with the nonprofit sector adopting AI, like, this generosity crisis has been such a slow burn, right? Like, we're used to this now. We feel this pain, but it's been the same pain we've had for years. So it's nothing new. It's nothing like, I know what I'm going to expect when I do the things the same way that I've been doing them. So the whole devil knows better than devil you don't, like, people are afraid to make that switch because I'll just keep plugging away the way that I've been doing it for so long.
Yep. That's a common approach.
So how are you guys using AI at Fundraise Up? You talked about it a little bit, but what, as much as you can, again, how would I see it if I'm interacting with you?
If you're a donor, you're not going to know necessarily. And that's the beauty of it, right? You don't know
it's beautiful.
when Uber is routing you to a different driver because they're going in a different direction and they're using all these AI modeling to figure out how to get you there, right? The beauty of it is I just know that it was personalized and felt better. So when we started out, we had AI in one place and it was in the ask array. And that's what you see now kind of coming up in the market around in various platforms is the AI ask array. But since then, we've applied it throughout the platform. And if you're in our dashboard, every feature that is AI powered has a little AI icon next to it. And we make sure the nonprofit admin user knows that we're using it in a number of places that make the experience more personal. So for example, the upsell, we call them nudges, where a one-time donor might get nudged to go monthly, right? And that threshold of what's the amount where you nudge them and don't is different for every org. Basically the mid-size gift is different for nonprofits of different sizes, right? Arian has a different mid-level gift than animal services, than research and medicine, et cetera, et cetera. So AI works out, hey, what's that number where I don't ask them to switch monthly and just take the big gift and run with it. So that's one place. Another place is, and I'm not giving any secrets away, this is on our website, fee coverage. And this is a hot topic in the donation form space. And we've been quoted on some other platform sessions and so on that will reference fee coverage and how that can bring down the conversion rate. And our rebuttal is, well, yeah, if it's a bad donation form, right? Sure. Like my tip goes down if I get bad service at a restaurant, my propensity and likelihood to cover fees is going to go down if this is not frictionless. Our job is like delight the donor, make it so easy that they're blown away. So we added AI to the fee coverage. And this was mind blowing to me when we figured out, hey, when we pre-select the box to cover fees, abandonment goes up on larger gifts, but it doesn't have an impact at the lower levels. And the AI's job was to figure out what is lower levels. Where is that line? So the AI works out what's the vanity threshold for a donor to where you presumptively pre-selecting the box offends me to the point where I abandon. And every single account is different. Every nonprofit has a different vanity threshold. So now the AI says you can in our dashboard, you can choose pre-select always, let them opt in always, or let AI figure it out. And the AI will, based on the gift amount, pre-select or not pre-select the fee coverage box, which ultimately results in more revenue and a higher conversion. So it's at every step in the process, the AI is looking, okay, right now I'm going to pitch this ask array. Now I'm going to see if I want to nudge them to a better gift, a higher value gift. Now I'm going to use AI to order the payment methods based on device and what I see. Maybe Apple Pay should be at the top on a mobile phone, but maybe it should be second on a Safari browser on a desktop. So it's going to reorder. And so every screen essentially has AI applied where it's just increasing constantly.
Yeah, I think that's incredible because most people think, oh, a donation form's a donation form and just fairly static and they're the same for everyone. And just what you described, there's so many nuances to it. I remember the first time I was introduced to Fundraise Up was at, I think it was in DC at an ANA conference. And I was sitting in a session, which is rare because I never sit in sessions. And it was Fundraise Up talking about doing some custom work with IFA, the organization that basically rehabilitates elephants. And I don't have like the strong affiliation with elephants. I mean, there's probably other animals. The Labradors, I like super like into it, but I was so impressed. And in this session, they were talking about how understanding the likelihood of someone being a subscriber, and even in some cases where a person says, no, I don't want to be a subscriber, that Fundraise Up found out that if they present that idea a second time, even after the fact, that there's a certain percentage of people be like, okay, I was wrong. I actually do want to be a subscriber. I was so impressed with this that I actually ended up making a recurring donation to IFA. And again, amazing stories, but it was just a really cool example about how Fundraise Up was aligning with this nonprofit, and they're fairly large and complicated, and figuring out like, what's this for you and what's this for your type of donors? Because your earlier point of like people affiliate with animals different than cancer research and other things. So yeah, it was really interesting study. And so everything that you just shared in a multitude of ways, like it makes that seemingly simple process super nuanced and complex. And I guess it shows how quickly the human brain is processing all these things, right? And if any one of those things becomes a barrier, you're just abandoned, right? Because it almost like intuitively that tension of like, I want to do this, but it's going to cost me something. I want to do it, but I'm not sure if right now is the moment or this is the right time or the right amount of money. And you're eliminating those reasons to just make it feel and reinforcing those positive vibes that go along with the whole donation experience, which is really awesome.
There's one other example of that, which is more human, is if I'm making a donation and there's a dedication to someone. The AI has figured out that don't recommend a monthly gift after that. Recommend an annual gift. Celebrate that. Like make that decision for them.
Right.
Let them opt into it, right? Present that, because this is a tribute. This isn't in honor of someone, and they're doing it for some reason, and set it and forget it, right? So to your point.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I love that it's not blatant, like, hey, we're using AI. Everybody should know that we're using AI just for the sake of using AI, right? But it's thoughtful in your execution of it. And it's still being transparent to the client, right? AI is making a role in this decision, and you're allowing them to make the decision of where does that take the place of us making a decision for the people that we're engaging with.
Yeah. One thing that is going to be interesting.
So,
sorry. I think I froze for a second. One thing that is going to be interesting is that as we're thinking about the nonprofit's responsibility of ethics and privacy and transparency, is whether or not, and the government will probably regulate this sometime next year, that organizations that are using AI on a website will have to have a thing like we have with cookies now, right? That wasn't just goodwill. That was a mandate that you had to say, if you're storing information about this individual in a cookie, the person has to accept it. We're going to end up doing the same thing in the nonprofit sector eventually. Study that Cherry and Koshi and I just funded and will be coming out, when we surveyed 1,006 donors, so recent donors in the last 12 months, showed that they are concerned about nonprofits using AI to do these things without any transparency. And so it's great that you're sharing that. And I think the encouragement is for nonprofits to have some sort of disclosure on their website somewhere. It's like, look, if you want our privacy policy, it's here. And also, yes, we use AI to essentially optimize your donor experience, and in a positive light, not in this like creepy, weird way. It's this way of like, we're trying to improve your donor experience. We're trying to facilitate that so it feels personal and it's timely and it's satisfying your wishes. And I think to your point about Uber and 1,000 other algorithms that we interact with on a daily basis, we're so used to trading privacy for convenience. And we'll do that a lot, right? Just because it's like, I want to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish now. And I understand that technology is behind there.
Right. But those other platforms, the Ubers, the TikToks, the everythings, they don't have those disclaimers out there. It's buried in the term, right? Somewhere in there. But we just accept the terms and we get on with it and we use it. So as for the space and will we get there? Now, I'll preface this with that Fundraise Up doesn't use any personal information in any of our AI. It's completely anonymous data. It's anonymized. It's basically what a Google Analytics session would see for a user, and we use that. So there's no bias baked into it, right? But will we add the AI badge? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, every tool that nonprofits are using has AI in it pretty much already. Right? Microsoft Word, Grammarly, whatever you're using, AI in there, and it's core to the fabric of it. Will a policy, will some sort of badge stop them or hinder them from adopting these tools? We're going to be on the back foot if we do, because like, as we said, Uber, TikTok, etc., they're going guns blazing.
Yeah. I do think it will be on the impetus will be on the nonprofit to say, we're using tools that use AI and disclosing, like to customize your donor experience or to personalize your donor experience. And that can be a broad swath to cover all the applications. I don't think it would be on an application by application basis because that would be just insane. But broadly, nonprofits want to use data to improve the donor experience. And I think it's good from a ethics and transparency perspective to be like we just the same way we accept cookies now. I mean, it's very, very similar. It's like we use cookies to essentially make your next experience better with us.
Right. And I mean, we all remember when GDPR came out and we were all scared of that. Like we're dead. Right. I can't email anybody anymore. Right. It's done. This is like that times 1,000. It's more ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in every tool. It's impossible to not use AI now.
Right.
Like if you're on your computer, you're using it. That's it. Right. So I think also leaning on some of the existing frameworks, they may not be complete, but GDPRs, ISO, PSI, SOC 2, we have all of those certifications because there isn't a GDPR for AI, for example. Right. So if GDPR says, hey, respect privacy, respect that donor consumer's wishes, we adhere to that. Our nonprofits have to do that. And we currently operate under that assumption.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see where it goes.
So speaking of seeing where it goes, where do you see the AI making an impact in the nonprofit sector in the next 5 years? What do you see in terms of adoption, of changes that it's making to organizations, and just overall how we act as a sector?
I saw this question when you sent it over. I gave it some thought, and I don't think AI, in fact, I'm pretty convinced it's not out to transform the sector. It is out to transform process, transform mindsets, transform efficiency and what we expect in productivity. All we're doing is looking to create constantly more efficiency all around the wheel. At Fundraise Up specifically, our product is let's create efficiency for the nonprofit, for the donor, for revenue outcomes. And all of that's ultimately to create more impact, more mission dollars at a lower overhead. And that overhead can be mental overhead, burnout overhead, cost overhead, just make things easier. And it's built into the business model as well that we have. But to reiterate, it's not AI is going to transform the sector. It's going to transform our expectations of the outputs, our mindset, the process. It'll transform the tech in the sector, I hope. At some point, every platform in this space will have some sort of AI in it. But we were fortunate enough to be at the forefront, be the first platform to have any sort of donor-facing AI in that donor experience. But increasingly, it's everywhere. But I think that's my take on what's the impact going to be. It's going to change how we work, not the industry itself.
Yeah. So secondary impact because we're going to be adapting to all that it's allowing us to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of unnecessary fear around it. It's this has benefits to us, just like the internet did, and all these parallels that have been drawn about different technologies. Sure, AI is way bigger and the biggest technological advancement maybe since the internet, but it's just going to change how we work. It's not going to change this industry specifically, I don't think. We're still going to have problems to solve and things like that.
Yeah. And ideally, this is the technology that helps scale generosity, right? If we use this well, we can do more accurately, faster, and be happier in the end, essentially serving our missions better. One of the things that we've talked about, what you and I and Scott was there as well, around is that tension between adoption, whether it's like being afraid of it and being slow to adopt because I'm not sure if it's as secure and safe and private, it's unregulated, that kind of thing, and making it easy to adopt. And I think that's an interesting conversation because our sector, one is we have to make sure that we're safeguarding trust and things that we do. And that does require doing things ethically and being competent and that. but also removing some of the barriers. I think when we hear a lot of nonprofits that don't use AI, and I reflect on conferences that Scott and I go to a lot, it's because, oh no, it's not private. Oh no, it's not secure. Oh no, it's going to, replace all the humans, which a lot of it is just unfounded, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on how you balance that tension between adoption and whatever we call it, regulation or safety, to make sure that we don't do harm to our sector, but we also don't make it so burdensome that people don't want to adopt it because they feel like they're just scared of it?
That's a big question. Kind of addressed it a bit earlier, where we're looking at pre-existing frameworks, GDPR certifications that are out there, compliances at a larger level that can kind of take some of that sting away and apprehension. But I talk to nonprofits and have talked to many of them, and they'll say something to the effect of, well, AI is new for us. And I'm sure you both have as well.
Mm-hmm.
And let me run this up the chain and see if this is okay. And I go, well, are you guys using Facebook ads? Are you guys using XYZ? Are you guys using this tool? Like, this isn't a radical shift. Like, you don't have somebody on your staff that is just sitting there analyzing spreadsheets and spreadsheets of demographics so you can build an audience on Facebook. You're going into Facebook ads and going, check the box, find a lookalike audience. You know, that answers your question directly, but we're getting back into, you're using it already. This shouldn't be such a big discussion point, I don't think.
Yeah. But you just pointed out also that you as an organization have, one, looked at frameworks, adopted frameworks, gone through from ISO to SOC 2.
Sure.
Those are big lifts. Those are things that are showing that you're committed to ensuring privacy and security for your clients. And I think, I think that is a symbol. And I think as people are evaluating, well, is this good versus bad AI, which we don't really talk about in those kind of binary terms, but working with vendors who aren't taking those precautions and say organizations like, just trust us, we're using Meta's Llama 2 open source model, and knowing that it has some really bad ramifications used improperly. Like, that model will teach you how to build a chemical weapon if you want. So what could go wrong?
Yeah.
But so I think there's probably more scrutiny on vendors now go through those extra precautions and to adopt a framework or build a framework, adopt a framework, have solid governance. But I think, to your point, AI, I don't think any tech platform exists in the future without AI, because it just is going to seem so archaic. And those that use it will outperform those that don't by a magnitude. So it's just ubiquitous to everything that we do. So I think that's one of the tensions that in the nonprofit sector find. It's like, well, how do I evaluate good versus bad? Or how do I know what AI is going to uphold my organization's values? And it's by looking at things like, what are the commitments of the organization I'm buying from, to ensure that they can check all those boxes.
Sure. And we went a step further. We got privacy compliance in Canada. It's called PIPEDA, PIPEDA. Different countries have different needs, or you need a server on that territory, whatever.
Right.
I looked at one website for one platform in the space, and under compliances, it said something to the effect, yes, answering the question of, are you ISO or SOC 2? I was like, yes, all of our downstream vendors are. Well, that didn't answer the question.
Right.
Like, are you?
Right.
Like, I don't need do you have the workman's comp? Like, I don't need to know if he's got insurance. I need to know, do you?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I had something else I want to mention there too, but I got so many thoughts.
Well, and I know we're getting close, but you had shared, well, we were talking a little bit ago about Fundraising AI Global Summit's coming up October 1st. And if people haven't signed up, they should sign up. It's entirely free, and join 10,000 people from 100 countries. Fundraise Up is one of our title sponsors this year. And what we have to pay a huge amount of credit to you for seeing what that opportunity was, and for Fundraise Up aligning with. And I think it's just added so much credibility to the Fundraising AI brand by having you at that high level. Also know that you're speaking at the conference. I don't know if you want to share a little bit of insight on what you're going to be talking about, and, share with the audience and what they should look forward to.
Sure. So yeah, we're looking forward to Summit. Year 1, we ridiculously passed on it. And come year 2, we said we have to be a part of that, being that it's all we kind of eat, sleep, and breathe. My session will be 5 unexpected AI outcomes that drive impact. So I've been working with our data analyst team. I'm like, and they're not always easy to work with, right? They're very binary, by definition.
I work with Scott. Trust me, I know.
But I put in a ticket. I'm like, guys, give me the top 5. Like, what are some weird correlations and things you see? And that's not how it works. I'm like, all right, let's double click. Let's dive in more. Like, hey guys, what are some, and I start giving examples, like people that are on this phone or that browser, and what does the AI find? So I got a bunch of really cool data tidbits that share that. Are you going to go, wow, like AI is figuring that out? Or
cool.
Or the cell phone network used as an indicator of average gift size if they're on T-Mobile or AT&T or whatever. Like all this stuff goes into the AI modeling. So I'm excited to share all that.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's gonna be great. Scott and I have had many of those epiphanies over the years where it was kind of the thing that we didn't expect that we saw, and we're like, wow, like we would have never known that without our deep dive. And there's a lot for people to benefit from.
If we got a minute, like it leads me to another thought. And I know there's a lot of agencies and consultants listening as well. And I know that AI sometimes can put them in a precarious space where they think that the work they're doing in some capacities is undermined. And I'm remembering one specific LinkedIn thread I had. Now, we talked about transforming the space, transforming the tech in the space. I think it's going to transform that relationship as well. The agencies, the consultants, like where do they leverage the tech? How do they stop, or how do they prevent themselves from being afraid of it? So one example is we have a bunch of correlative data. The thread was around, should the ask array be ascending or descending order? There was it was already 20 comments deep. Ascending, descending. And I come in 20 comments deep and I go, guys, it's both. It depends on the screen size, what's visible on the screen when you go there. So our AI basically handles that as well, by the way. It'll handle, should it be ascending or descending? Well, if it's above the fold, ascend, below the fold, descend, and we have a better outcome. So that to say, like, AI is not the answer for everything. Like, the next question in that thread was like, well, what does that mean about donor psychology? I'm like, I don't know. That's your job.
Right.
I got the data that shows that the output is better when I leverage this, modeling. And that's what I kind of want the industry to kind of look at, is like, correlative data is a shortcut. Like, we're looking at data at massive scale. And I can tell you the correlations today, but I can't tell you the why. And I need consultant, Mrs. Consultant, go and dig in, find out why the donor behavior is that way. Leverage it in your messaging, leverage it direct mail, leverage it in the subject line. I can't do that part for you, but I can tell you, if my thumb can reach the ask array easier on a mobile device, it's got to be ascending, for example, right? So that's something I wanted to tap into a little bit in our chat, because I see that out there in conversations. And there's a bit of an apprehension. It's like a love-hate. It's a frenemy kind of vibe.
Yeah. Right. I think there's that fear of using it, but then also those that are using it, there's a fear of sharing with clients that they're using it.
Right.
Feeling like they're, like, to your point, that their work is undermined. Like, well, then why would I need to go to you if you're just doing the same tool that I could use elsewhere? But they're adding their expertise, putting their decades of experience into this, and they can craft that prompt, if it's generative, or build that model with that unique experience that a client might not have if they've just been in that one perspective the whole time.
A common comment we get from when a nonprofit jumps on board with us, they go, you shorten my roadmap 3 to 5 years. Like, these are all the tests that I want to do. So, like, AI is a shortcut to getting to data, but you still need the human to analyze the psychology.
Exactly.
Can analyze psychology.
Yeah, the quantitative and the qualitative together is really, and I agree, our industry needs a lot of that. So I know we're out of time. Sal, this has been fantastic. We cannot wait to have you at the summit with 10,000 of your best friends. I know they're going to lean in. Thank you. Thank you to all of Fundraise Up for your endorsement and sponsorship, for all you're doing for the industry to bring that rigor, and really demystifying a lot of things that we assumed were true in the sector, and some of which are and some of which are not. But more than anything, making the act of giving easier and more fluid for individuals who want to make a difference every day. So it's been such a pleasure to have you on. We are going to continue to be good friends, and just thank you so much for all that you do for the industry.
Can I take a moment to thank you both and the entire Fundraising AI team for all the work you're doing to bring this conversation to light? We appreciate that as
Awesome. Well, what a pleasure. Well, thank you all. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we are going to put Sal's LinkedIn, I think, if that's okay, Sal, in the show notes. You can connect with him and learn a bit more.
LinkedIn is a community. I don't know what is.
Fundraise Up and all those good things. If you didn't like this episode, don't tell anyone. It will be our little secret. Glad that you're here. We'll see you next. Take care, everyone.